Hi, in this video, I will be talking about the Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. In the year 2011, the Norwegian Nobel Committee decided that the Nobel Prize will be divided into three equal parts between Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Leima Roberta Bowie, and Tawakkul Karman. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and Leima Bowie were from Liberia, and Tawakkul Karman was from Yemen. The reason for this prize was for their non-violent struggle for the safety of women and for women's rights to full participation in peace-building work. So if we look at it from a gender point of view, it was a landmark moment because if we look at it, all three of them were women, and the reason for them being awarded was because of this non-violent struggle for their active participation, chiefly for the upliftment of women. Now let's look at each individual character here. This speech is delivered by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, titled "A Voice for Freedom." If we look at Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, she is internationally known as the Iron Lady of Africa. If we look at her political career, in November 2005, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was elected President of Liberia, and she became the first woman to lead an African nation. As the first female head of the state ever to be democratically elected in Africa, she has worked to promote peace, reconciliation, and social and economic development. Leima Roberta Bowie was born and raised in Liberia. She has also worked for women's rights and full participation in democratic processes to ensure lasting peace. In Liberia, bloody civil wars had ravaged the country since 1989, when Leima Bowie called together women from different ethnic and religious groups in the fight for peace. Tawakkul Karman was born in Mekhlaf and raised in Yemen. In Yemen, democratic rights were restricted. In 2005, Tawakkul Karman co-founded the group called Women Journalists Without Chains to promote freedom of expression and rights. If we look at some of the key points, here or the themes are the struggle for peace, justice, and equality. Chiefly, we're talking about women here. Sirleaf also mentions the tragedy which Norway faced before the acceptance speech by Sirleaf. In Norway, prior to this function, 77 people in Norway were murdered. Here, Sirleaf talks about the historic adherence of the Norwegian people to the values of openness, integrity, and justice. She also mentions about the prominence of three women offered the Nobel Peace Prize, linked by their commitment to change and by efforts to promote the rule of law and democracy. She talks about the many endearing spirit of women. She has mentioned so many women from different countries, but notably she talks about a woman called Wangari Maathai. So who is Wangari Maathai here? Wangari Maathai was the first African woman to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. So in 2004. So accepting the Nobel Peace Prize in 2004, Wangari Maathai said that Those of us who have been privileged to receive education, skills and experiences, and even power must be role models for the next generation of leadership. This is very interesting and very important even to us, because people, be it you or be it anyone, or people who have been privileged to receive education and skills and experiences, each person must be role models for the next generation. So you and I, everyone has a responsibility. We should be a role model for different generations to come, or for the next generation to come. That is our duty. That's what Wangari Maathai said. And the reason why Ellen Johnson Sirleaf mentioned this is because it is important. We should be a role model. If we are privileged enough to receive education, the skills and experiences, we cannot just stay silent in the corner. Each of us should be responsible enough. Ellen Johnson also says that history will not judge us by what we say. It is not about what we say. It is more about what we do to live the lives of our countrymen and women. Sirleaf is propagating about the importance of actions and not just words. She says that history will judge us not by our talks, not by what we say, but by the legacy we leave behind for the next generations to come. She also talks about Tawakkul Karman, how inspirational she was as an activist for peace and women's rights. And she also talks about Leima as a peacemaker. She talks about how courageous Leima Roberta Bowie was, and how she was able to mobilize the women of Liberia to take back their country. And she talks about her journey, how she was how her journey was shaped by her parents as well as her two grandmothers, all indigenous Liberians. They were farmers and market traders, her grandmothers, neither of whom could read or write. She says that her grandmothers or her parents taught her something so valuable, that is, only through service is one's life truly blessed. So if you are of a service to someone, or if you are able to offer a helping hand or extend a helping hand to people who are in need, only that way you are blessed as a person. You are truly blessed as a person, not through words. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf also says that her life was transformed when she was elected to be the president of Liberia, and the first woman president of Liberia. Ellen also talks about the problems and the difficulties, the struggle, the pain women are still going through. She says that she cannot entirely talk about women all throughout, but she says that it has given them a platform to speak to women around the globe, whatever their nationality, their color, their religion, or their station in life. She says that although international tribunals, although justice have correctly declared that rape used as a weapon of war is a crime against humanity, rapes in time of lawlessness continued unabated. So even now, very shockingly, instances of rapes, tortures are all happening every now and then, everywhere. The number of our sisters and daughters of all ages brutally defiled over the past 2 decades staggers the imagination. She talks about how women are still subjugated, how women are still controlled, and how women are still undergoing this tremendous pain and struggle. But she also says that um, there is still hope for optimism, and the reason is because this through this use of technology, um, people are able to find justice. So what is remarkable about this is that she was able to deliver her speech. At the same time, she was also able to speak up for women's rights, the injustices women are still facing every now and then. At the same time, she also spoke about um, optimism and hope, how we can look forward to. She also talks about the 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 need to find their voices, particularly women. She says that women need to find their voice. She says that there will be failures along the way, for the world will not change overnight. But we have seen changes in our lifetimes, and the world will continue to change in ways that affect us all. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. It is a far cry. The world will not change overnight. But in the end, at the end of the day, the moral universe, the arc of the moral universe, justice, truth will prevail in the end. She urges women to find their voices and to speak up and not be afraid and not be scared, and to fight for their rights till the very end. So this is a brief analysis of her speech. What we need to remember is the struggle, the fight for injustices, how women should find their voices, and also how we as men in general, we also need to have a set of responsibility, and women, how women need to find their voices, not to be scared, but to find their voices. Um, Let us look at some of the important questions and answers. What was the response of the Norwegians in the face of the adversity they faced? In the face of the adversity, the response at every level of public and private Norwegian life was consistent with adherence to the values of openness, integrity, and justice. How are the three women selected for the Nobel Peace Prize linked? So how are they linked? How are they connected? So the three women selected for the Nobel Peace Prize are linked by their commitment to change and by their efforts to promote the rule of law and democracy in societies driven by war and conflict. Who was Wangari Maathai? Wangari Maathai was the first African woman to receive the Nobel Peace Prize in the year 2004. Why does the speaker credit? Who does the speaker credit for shaping her career? Her parents and her two grandmothers. Why do you think the speaker says that her life was forever transformed when she started to serve the people of Liberia? The speaker says that her life was forever transformed when she started to serve the people of Liberia because it gave her the responsibility of rebuilding a nation nearly destroyed by war and plunder. How does the speaker describe the price women have paid for the brutality against them? The speaker says that through the mutilation of their bodies and the destruction of their ambitions, women and girls have disproportionately paid the price of domestic and international armed conflict. Women have paid in the currencies of blood, of tears, and of dignity. What signs of hope does the speaker see in the world? There's occasion for optimism and hope. The speaker says that there are good signs of progress and change as international law and an awareness of human rights are illuminating dark corners of schools, courts, and marketplace. Describe briefly the role of technology in the fight for world peace. The speaker says that technology has turned our world into one interconnected neighborhood. What happens in one place is seen in every corner. With the advancement in technology, there is no better place, no better time for the spread of peace, democracy, social justice, and fairness for all. What does the speaker urge the people to do? The speaker urges the people to let their voices be heard. She urges the people to find their voices and raise their voices, which will be a voice for freedom. What does Liberia's continued progress depends on? Liberia's continued progress depends on policies and programs that invest in people and strengthen democratic institutions while remaining grounded in the rule of law. The speaker further adds that Liberia must stand the test of time and must not be dependent on any one leader or any particular party. It will judge us by the legacy we leave behind for the generations to come. What legacy is the speaker referring to in these lines? Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, in her acceptance speech, stresses on the importance of leaving behind a legacy for generations to come. She urges the people to exercise their power with great responsibilities, as history will not judge us by what we say at one particular time, but by our good deeds and selfless works towards the betterment of the society. Sirleaf also talks about the importance of exercising powers and responsibilities who are privileged enough to receive it. She takes the example of Wangari Maathai and states that those of us who have been privileged to receive education, skills, and experiences, and even power, must be role models for the generation of leadership. With regards to the legacy, the speaker is referring mainly to the leaders who hold important posts and also the people who are privileged enough to receive education. Such people should be aware about the powers and responsibilities vested in them, and they should work to promote peace, reconciliation, and social and economic development. Question number 2. The youth in Liberia have expressed their desire for a better education and wish to make up for the time and opportunities lost. Do you think they are justified? What role does the youth play in the development of a nation? The youth are justified in expressing their desire for a better education. They're aware of the civil war which broke out in Liberia and ravaged the entire country in 1990, and are well justified in their wish to make up for the time and opportunities lost. Through years of war and conflict, the youth have found their voices and they have worked to make their voices heard. The government has also heard their cries and wishes. The future can be bright only if the youth actively participate in the peace building process and overall development of the country. They must be patient and must not be dependent on any one leader or political party for the development of a nation. They must be ready to accept challenges in their hunt for better education, useful skills, and jobs. According to Sirleaf, what are the challenges faced in many parts of the world as far as crimes against women are concerned? Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, in her speech, says that although international laws and awareness of human rights have reached the farthermost corners of the world, there are enormous challenges women still face. So let's look at this. She reiterates that crimes against women are still underreported and the laws protecting women are under-enforced. Despite various steps taken to ensure the safety of women and promote equal justice and opportunity, women are still far behind in comparison to men. So in times of war and lawlessness, women are raped and tortured mercilessly. The speaker makes it clear that in this 21st century, there should be no place for human trafficking that victimizes almost 1 million people, mostly girls, each year. Women also face the enormous task of sharing equal leadership status with men. In many parts of the world, the working number of women in offices and high posts are still low compared to men. It is also surprising that in the most developed countries like the United States of America, the Americans are still yet to see the first female president.